Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Jones. I'm going to start another lesson today that deals with asking and answering questions as we did last week. But now I've added a few tweaks to it, and you're going to have to tell me how you liked it. All right, so we're going to start out with going over our I can statement. I can ask questions about what I've read and use details from the text to support my answer. When we read our I can statement, it's always important to focus on our know and our show. Now, in our know, we know that those are the nouns that can be found in our I can statement. So I am going to circle all of the knows. These are the things that I need to know. First of all, I need to know what a question is. I also need to know what details are. I also need to know what a text is and what are answers. And of course, these are all things that we've been learning really since we've been in school, because when we are being read a story, when we read stories independently, we use these things in order to show that we comprehend what we've heard and what we've read. So the next thing we need to focus on is how we show that we understand text that we're reading. We do it by asking questions. We read for the details. We use the text to support our answers. So we'll be asking, reading, using, and supporting. So those are our knows and shows for this particular lesson.
Questions. When we read, we ask and answer questions about the text. This helps us become better readers because it makes us think about what we're reading. Questions are sentences that ask for information. Many questions start with who, what, when, where, why, or how. Questions end with a question mark. When you read a book, you can think of questions before you read, while you read, and after you read. Before you read, you might wonder questions like, who will be in this story? Or, what will happen? While you read, you might wonder questions like, why did that happen? Or, what will happen next? After you read, you might wonder questions like, how are the characters feeling? Or, what would happen if the story continued? When you are finished reading, you should be able to answer questions about what you read. Some questions you might answer could be, who were the characters in the story? Where and when did the story take place? And what happened in the beginning, middle, and end of the story? Sometimes you'll need to look back in the story to find the answers. If you ask and answer questions before, during, and after you read, you will become a great reader. Thanks for watching.
So today we're going to read a realistic fiction story called Grandma's Secret by Cat Williams. And we're going to read it together so that we can see if we can understand what the author is saying and what questions can be asked about the text. And then you will have an opportunity to reread the text and then answer your questions that you have about the text in order to demonstrate your understanding of the story. Annie dreamed of being a famous singer one day. She and her grandmother both liked watching competition shows on TV that transformed ordinary people into singing stars. One night, Grandma brought down a small dust-covered box from the attic. "I'd like to show you some old photographs," she said. "I think you might find them interesting." One photograph showed 4 girls singing on the stage, gathered around a microphone. They were wearing matching dresses, and their hair was elaborately styled. "Who are those people?" Annie asked. "Look at the girl on the right," Grandma said. Annie leaned closer, peering at the photograph. "Oh my gosh, Grandma, that's you. What are you doing?" "I'm singing on TV with a group called the Wildflowers," Grandma said. "It was about 40 years ago. We recorded a song and it played on the radio. It was so popular that we were asked to perform it on TV." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" asked Annie. Grandma smiled. "Oh, I guess I just hadn't thought about it for a long time." Now it was Annie's turn to smile. "So, Grandma, what else have you done that you haven't told me about?" Okay, so now, what questions do you have about Grandma and her secret? So if you would, take a few minutes to go back. I'm going to show you the text again, and I want you to think of some details, important details that we found in the text about Grandma's secret. And keep it in mind is once you get through looking at it, I will show you some details that I identified and see if we're on the same page. Okay, bring it back, bring it back. It's time to bring it back. Grab a friend, bring it in, and let the learning begin. Whoop, whoop. Let the learning begin. Whoop, whoop. Okay, I'm going to kind of scroll down because I want you to look at the page where we have already kind of identified some details that stand out about Grandma's secret. So now the first thing we see is that one night Grandma brought down a small dust-covered box from the attic. So, that's something that wasn't out there for anybody just to see. So it was put away in the attic. And then it says, "I'm singing on a TV show with my group, the Wildflowers," Grandma said. "We recorded a song and it was played on the radio. It was so popular that we were asked to perform it on TV." Okay. So, those are some details. They're very important details that absolutely give us more information about Grandma's secret. So now to the activity. I'm going to start with I do. Who do? I do. Who do? I do. So it starts out by asking, how can the details from the story help you answer questions about Grandma and her secret? Well, first of all, we have to remember as good readers is to ask what's happening in the story, whom it's happening to, and also to ask where and why the events happen. All right, so the chart, the direction says, finish the chart by using details from the text to find answers. Add a question of your own to the second row. That'll be the you do. All right, so we're going to start with the first question. The first question is, who are the girls in the picture? Well, the details in the text tells us, I'm singing in a group. Or I'm singing on a TV show with a group, the Wildflowers. Oh my gosh, Grandma, that's you? And so the answer to the question, who are the girls in the picture? Well, they're the girls in the picture the girls in the picture that are a part of Grandma's singing group. They're a part of Grandma's singing group. And I also want to point out, remember when we fashion our questions, we always begin with a capital letter and questions end with a question mark. And don't forget, our question words are who, what, when, where, why, and how. All right. And so that question is supported by the information that we got from the text, the details from the text. All right. So now let's look at the next task. And this is where I'm going to ask you to turn and talk to a friend, your neighbor, your cousin, your mom, aunt, uncle, whoever's around. And I want you to turn and talk and discuss with them. What is one thing Annie and her grandmother have in common, and how do you know? Discuss. Okay. Okay, bring it back, bring it back. It's time to bring it back. Grab a friend, bring it in, and let the learning begin. Woo woo, and let the learning begin. Woo woo. Okay, so now, what is something that Annie and grandmother have in common? Well, this is one of those questions that can be supported in the text. So if you would, I want you to look back, because some of these things we can answer from our head because we can remember it from the text. And I think this might be one of those questions. So if you would, I want you to independently read the first paragraph and see if you can find the answer to the question, what one thing did Annie and her grandmother have in common? Okay, so the question was, what one thing did Annie and her grandmother have in common? And remember, when we write questions, we make sure we begin with a capital letter and we end with a question mark. Okay, so now looking at the first paragraph, it says, Annie dreamed of being a famous singer one day. She and her grandmother both liked watching competition shows on TV that transform ordinary people into singing stars. So in reading that, I see that she and her grandmother both like watching competition shows on TV. So that detail gives me the support I need for my answer. So I would write, she and her grandma both liked watching competition shows. Okay, and I'll finish that. Okay, and so that's a detail. So to answer that question, what's one thing that they have in common? They both like competition shows. Okay, so you will have an opportunity to, and with this video, of course, you will be able to start and stop it so that you have an opportunity to read the text again. But I'd like you to sign in to your Class Dojo, and I want you to come up with a question of your own that you have about the text, and I want you to find details that support your answer to that question. And I will then have an opportunity to go in to see what your responses are and to give you some feedback on them, because I want you all to know that during this time it's so important that you can continue to read, continue to write, continue to think, be creative, and continue to grow. I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you again. So don't forget, our objective or our I can statement is I can ask questions about what we've read and use details from the text to support my answer.